NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Hercules Tire.
60 minutes of octane-filled gear shifting, brake burning, fender smashing last lap passes for the win. Local, regional, and touring series interviews, news, and of course, opinion. Now, a couple of guys that think Speed Racer was a documentary. Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long.
Eggleston beats out the fields and Mother Nature to win at home in Colorado. We'll hear from one of the early favorites in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series national standings in Division 1. And another NASCAR next driver lands his first, make that second victory of the season overseas in Europe. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast for June 15th, 2016. Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long with you on the I Wish I Was Home This Week edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast, because as you know, I'm from Connecticut, and man, that's where the action is as far as NASCAR touring goes this week at the Thompson Speedway tonight for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, and on Friday night for the NASCAR K&N Series for the first time in like 6 or 7 years.
So why didn't you put in for the time off, knowing the schedule was out well in advance? You could have done it.
Because I wanted to be here with you. And we'll be at the Iowa Speedway this weekend.
I'll call something on that, but I can't say the word I want to say, Craig. Do you have it in there that I could use? No, that's good enough. But no, I feel for you. And I forgot all about the Wednesday night show. We're so used to weekend touring series events or weekend races, and I said, oh, that's right, Thompson's tonight.
It's like a little mini Speed Weeks in Connecticut.
It is
for the short track fans. The Thompson event tonight with the modifieds. Tomorrow night practice at Stafford for the K&N Series for their race on Friday night, and then always a great show at the Waterford Speed Bowl on Saturday night, a track that has really turned things around here in the last 18 months. So if you're up in New England this week, you have your fair share of events.
Well, maybe they'll have weather like they had when I was watching the I think it was the Formula One race. They had some very cool weather in Canada. Of course, the Pinty Series postponed in advance and in their race over the weekend because there was some impending bad weather in that area, but very cool weather and temperatures. They get it. We don't. we're mired in the triple digits already, just about. So it's here, and we just got to dig in. But it should be a great week of racing up in the Northeast starting tonight.
I'm very jealous for all of those that get to go to all the events. Rich Keeter and all those guys up there.
Oh, they're going to stick it to you on social media.
Sure
you know
they already are. They already are. I'm already getting pictures from a cloudless Thompson Speedway. Anyway, so that's coming up. We'll talk more about those events here in a little bit on the show, but busy weekend this past weekend. The NASCAR K&N Pro Series West back in action in Colorado, and to no one's surprise, or very little surprise, Chris Eggleston back in victory lane, his second win at his home racetrack in the K&N Series.
Yeah, big victory. Backed it up after the victory at Orange Show Speedway, in which, of course, Ryan Partridge had a dominant effort that night, but being in the right place at the right time, having a good car, and being in the right position has put Eggleston in a very good spot after that, and they've got the momentum going and have closed up to make it a very tight points chase in the battle for that championship as well.
4, I believe, is the number right now.
4, that's right. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. 4 points between Chris Eggleston and Todd Gilliland, who finished in the second spot on the Saturday night. Grayson Raz was third, Ryan Partridge fourth, and Blaine Perkins rounded out the top 5. You see the championship standings and the final results there. Julia Landauer, another good run in 6th. Ron Norman 7th. Matt Levin in 8th. You have Cole Rouse in 9th. Is it Roos?
I think it's Rouse.
Rouse. And Noah Gregson rounded out the top 10, another driver that we're waiting to break in the victory lane anytime now in the K&N Series. Chris Eggleston will join us here coming up in just a little bit. The National Series standings shuffled up a little bit. Matt Bowling still up on top. Keith Rocco lost a position in the top 5, went from 3rd to 4th because I assume of the rain out at the Speed Bowl this past weekend up in Connecticut. Matt Bowling will join us, though, to talk about his very busy season. 5 racetracks, I believe I counted. 5 wins already here in the mid-portion of June.
Yeah, I mentioned the weekend I was at Dominion, that he was there for the Memorial Day ComServe Classic for the late model stocks. Had a good top 5 run there. Then he appears at East Carolina Motor Speedway over the weekend, a track that has gained quite a bit of numbers as far as car count. And they did, I believe last year, their late model count wasn't good, but I want to say that was a track that may have changed the rules a little bit to get the limited guys, kind of put them on the same level, or they kind of did a little bit of work to build up their late model program, and they've had a pretty good season so far, and Matt took one of the 2 races there over the weekend. So he's going everywhere he needs to if South Boston's closed to make sure that he's getting maximum points as best he can.
Lewis White, the other big winner at East Carolina over the weekend, and that's one thing that caught my eye in looking at car counts, which is something that we do when we try to figure out who's running for the national championship and where they might go. East Carolina Speedway, not 2 years ago, 6, 7, 8 late models. Now it's nice to see a full field of 16, 18, 20 late models on any given night. And I think running double features helps.
Oh, absolutely it does, and they do that for the bulk of their season. It's a track that we've talked about a little bit this year because the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified drivers are scheduled to go there, so it's a very unique track. It's going to be interesting to get Matt's perspective because it's so different than any other racetrack that he has run at short track-wise this year. So it'll be kind of fun to pick his brain on how his success has been so far this year.
That track in Robertsonville, North Carolina. Also joining us on the show today, Alon Day, another NASCAR Next driver that has gone to victory lane, and it seems like we're averaging one a week here on the show. A NASCAR Next driver that has won. Alon Day winning in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for the 2nd time this season, and did it the hard way in the rain.
Yeah, very impressive run. I mean, it's his 2nd victory of the year. For the young driver, he's done a phenomenal job in a very competitive group, which includes Anthony Coupan, who we've had on the show before, a former champion as well. But that series just continues to gain more and more momentum and notoriety. It's just getting stronger and stronger. And when you look at the names that are out there, they're becoming names that a lot of our fans are becoming more and more familiar with. It's fun to watch a new series develop, and they've done a fantastic job. And congratulations to Alon for being a part of the NASCAR Next program as well. And I think that was a great move by NASCAR, as you and I have alluded to include the Pinty Series and the Whelen Euro Series as far as NASCAR Next candidates. Great field.
That win for Alon Day coming at Brands Hatch. I believe Anthony Coupan, the other winner.
Yes.
And I like that series because they don't have a lot of weekends, but the weekends that they do run, they're big weekends. They're big events with Elite 1 and Elite 2, and both of the series run 2 events. It's a full weekend for race fans.
And, and I know you've recognized it as well after Alon scored the victory over the weekend, but I'm going to back up and I'm going to kind of go outside of our series, but kind of stay within the confines. Great weekend for some of our graduates. I mean, you and I had a chance to watch some of the best and the cleanest side-by-side, door-handle to door-handle truck racing between former champion William Byron in the K&N Pro Series East and Matt Crafton, one of the all-time greats. I have never seen that close of racing for that many laps, side by side, not touching, leaning on each other, and showing great respect. And he came away with the victory, and then Daniel Suarez on Saturday. I mean, that's so good because he was so long overdue to get a victory, and it's just so great to see some of our NASCAR Next graduates, our graduates from this program, do so well. I mean, that's what it's all about for me, just to watch the progression of these drivers.
And don't count out Joey Logano,
No,
NASCAR K&N West driver. I guess back then it was the Camping World Series. Did well in that series before moving into the NASCAR Xfinity Series and then the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. He won on Sunday at Michigan. And I was doing notes last night getting ready for the truck race this weekend, and it's Ben Rhodes, William Byron, Rico Abreu, Kaz Grala, all drivers that we have become familiar with here the last several years on this show that are taking that next step into the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series and in Daniel Suarez's case in the NASCAR Xfinity Series contending for that championship.
And as you know, I mean, if fans didn't have the opportunity to stay up late and catch the truck race, I mean, the tail end of it, what a job by Rico Abreu. I mean, coming through like gangbusters and just about took the wall down off a turn, too, in his effort to catch Byron, but did such a fantastic job. I mean, the graduates from the K&N programs and the NASCAR Next programs, they're making the impact. They're making a great impact up into the Big Three. Future of the sport, alive and well, no doubt. So, and we're going to talk to one of those drivers here coming up in just a moment. Chris Eggleston, the winner this past weekend at his home racetrack, Colorado National Speedway. That's where we discovered him. What, 3 or 4? You and I discovered it.
3 or 4 years ago now, when he was, seemingly winning every week there in the local program.
It'd be nothing if it wasn't for us, right? We discovered him. You're right.
Yes.
We did.
Yeah, we did. And he'll join us after the break as he won the NASCAR K&N West race this past weekend at Colorado National Speedway.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
O'Reilly. Father's Day is June 19th. If you're having a hard time deciding what to get, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts where you'll find gift cards and hundreds of great Father's Day gifts. From tools to flashlights, O'Reilly Auto Parts has exactly what he wants. Get him something he'll use this Father's Day at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
Like experience kind of outweighs youth.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
Kyle Busch driving for his life right now.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
Our lives are so much different than what people may think they are.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
Looking for winged sprint car coverage? MRN has you covered with Winged Nation. Tuesdays at noon Eastern, it's Winged Nation presented by Hercules Tire on MRN.com. Thursdays, check out the Winged Nation Weekend Preview podcast presented by Hefner Racing Products. Then on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern, watch Winged Nation presented by Sage Fruit on BAV TV. MRN's Winged Nation, your source for all things winged sprint cars.
This is NASCAR K&N Pro Series East driver Allie Kern, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
Allie, one of 22 or 23 drivers I think I've seen entered for the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East race this Friday night at the Stafford Motor Speedway. 22. Thank you, buddy. 22 cars lined up and ready to go for practice tomorrow and then the race on Friday evening. One driver that was in victory lane in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West joins us now. This past Saturday night, Colorado National Speedway won the Napa Toyota 150. Chris Eggleston. Chris, welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. I guess the second visit for you in as many months here on the show. Congratulations. That means when you join us, it means you're doing well. And
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, buddy, for having me on your program. And yeah, who would have known when I talked to you guys last time that we'd be able to go 2 for 2 in the K&N West Series and make it happen. But definitely had the fans on their feet at the end of that race, and should be a good one to watch on TV.
Such a gratifying deal, not only to pick up a K&N Pro Series West win, but to do it back at your home track where you had so much success for so many years. So the NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series had the ability and the opportunity to make the jump to Bill McAnally Racing and take us through that, just from the time you came through the pit area to the time you got to victory lane. It had to be a special weekend for you.
Yeah, it was a really good weekend. First and foremost, just having a lot of friends and family there to kind of witness it and kind of take in all the excitement and everything. And not only that, but just all the fans there in Colorado. It's a really cool place, not only for myself, but I feel like all the teams on the K&N West Series to go to, because every time you talk to them, everybody gets so amped up going to Colorado, because I feel like the fans are really loyal there. And they pack the house there every year they go there, and then especially having hospitality out there in Turn 2, just filled with over 1,000 Napa people. It's just really cool and special to get a win in our 50th anniversary, Napa Filters Toyota, and deliver Bill, I think his 4th win of the West Series out of 5 races. Everybody over at Bill McAnally Racing is just working so hard, and man, it's really showing and providing real fast race cars, that's for sure.
I had to wait out, I believe, a rain delay of 2 hours in length, maybe a little more than that. Was there ever any doubt in getting that race in on Saturday night? And what'd you do to kill the time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when the rain hit, it hit hard, and it rained an awful lot. And I didn't really know what we were going to do, if NASCAR was going to stick it out and try to get it in that night, or if we were going to come back the next day. And, always produces havoc when everybody's trying to fly out the next day and the whole bit. And obviously thankful for us, my own bed and pillow is only just down the street, so it wasn't too bad of a deal. But they were thankful. I was thankful at least to get it in that night. It's always more fun to race under the lights. And so for that rain delay, everybody kind of scattered there for a little bit. It hit pretty quick, and we were able to get to the hauler. And just some random people just kind of took shelter in our trailer and got to know some new people. And I think we had Heather DeVoe and some of those people from NBCSN in there. And so we were kind of just talking about the first few laps and got to meet with the camera guys and learn how expensive their equipment is. That was a topic of discussion, and who knew their cameras were as expensive as they were. And so just kind of sitting down and talking to some people and just trying to get my mind off the race. I knew we had a really fast race car. We definitely didn't fire off before the rain started as good as we wanted to, but once we got going and a few laps got in, had a really, really fast long-run race car.
Closed to within 4 points of the gentleman that has also got 2 victories for Bill McAnally Racing this year, and that's young Todd Gilliland. Some would say he's cooled off a little bit, but he's still right there in the thick of the battle. Every time we see somebody else winning, whether it's a Ryan Partridge or yourself, Todd Gilliland is right there in the mix, but only a 4-point gap between himself and you. Is it too early to think about points, or is that always in the back of your mind with much shorter season compared to our big 3 in NASCAR racing?
Yeah, I think it's pretty early to start talking about points, but I mean, I guess, looking back at the season, I mean, you're right. When he went out there and fired off with 2 wins right away, I mean, a lot of people were starting to be skeptical if anybody was going to catch him, and so it's kind of cool to produce some really solid runs and get 2 wins here in the last couple of races and kind of close that points gap and just let everybody know that we're still in the hunt and we're here to contend for a championship. I think leading into Sonoma here in a week or so, it's going to be a really big point shakeup based on whether people have road course experience or not. Myself, again, I think we talked about this on the last program you guys had. My road course experience is limited, so we'll go in there and hopefully have a really solid effort and week. And then after Sonoma, we kind of get back to the ovals. Iowa will be a big weekend as well, and then that Utah weekend, having 2 road courses back to back on a Saturday and Sunday. That weekend is going to be absolutely huge, and that's going to be a circle on everybody's calendar to make sure they have a good weekend, not get tore up the first day, not have any problems, and making sure you can race on Sunday, and then just having good finishes both days.
Good mix of tracks coming up for the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West here in the next couple of months. Want to go back to Saturday night. I'm looking at the leader sheet. And, of course, this race will air later this week on NBCSN, but you led lap 144 to 146. Gilliland led 147 and 148. Then you took the lead for the final time for the final 2 laps. How close was it at the checkered flag?
It was close. It was really close. Like I said, we had the fans on their feet. I think when Todd got the lead there late in the race, we had a restart, and I chose the bottom, and I got the lead and got a good run. And I think I slipped just a little bit in 1 and 2, and he was able to pull next to us on the outside. And we had just crossed the start-finish line. And when we did, he maybe had an inch on us. And the second we crossed the start-finish line, the yellow came out. We didn't complete a lap. And so we had lost the lead there for a split second and caused us to restart in second. And I was bummed about that under the caution because I knew we had a car to beat, a good car to win. And for us to not only, I had all these things going in the back of my mind. And just at that time, we're restarting second, the rain starts sprinkling. And I said, oh, my goodness, if we lose a race like this by 1 inch crossing the start-finish line, the yellow come out, and if NASCAR were to call the race, it would be a heartbreaker, that's for sure. And we were able to get going. Todd elected to choose the outside again, and so that put us back on the bottom. And we were able to run side by side with them for about a lap or a lap and a half. We got by him. We cleared him down the back stretch. And Todd had all race. His strong part was he had a lot of entry speed and got into the corners really hard. Whereas we kind of backed our corners up, got a good run through the middle and up off. And I think that's what made us as good as we were. And in doing so, he barely got into the back of us, getting into 3, kind of made a little contact. He got next to me, went by me. I let him go. And the very next lap, we were able to get our nose under him going into 3, kind of get next to him. And I think going down the backstretch on the white flag lap, we were able to clear him and cross the start-finish line first. So there's definitely a good swap for the lead those last few laps, and it was definitely a good race, that's for sure.
Let's just say when Chris crossed the stripe, Todd was so close, Chris heard him say, "Darn it, Chris." You took it from me. When people look on paper, they see 4 victories by Bill McAnally Racing, and they would say, wow, they're dominating. But that's not really the case when you look at it. Yes, you and Todd are top 2 in the point standings for the K&N Pro Series West. But when we look at a top 5, yes, there's other mixes. Julia Landauer, one of your teammates, has done very well. She's had some good top 5 runs. But the Jefferson Pitts group is still in there. Ryan Partridge is still in there. And there's no clear-cut dominating win at any racetrack, it appears. This doesn't compare to what you might perceive on paper. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I agree, buddy. I mean, I take Ryan Partridge with Sunrise Ford as a prime example. I feel like they've led a lot of laps, if not the most laps, at almost every race we've been to this year. And everybody just has speed at different parts of the race, it seems like, whether it's early on, the middle, or the end. And depending on who's saving tires when, it's so hard to get an assessment throughout the race. But, again, the 9 car, for one, has got a lot of speed. I felt like the 27 this weekend with Grayson Raz had a lot of speed, and at one point I think was faster enough in the middle of the race and may have wore his stuff out a little bit when we were conserving a little bit. I feel like Julia, a teammate of ours, Julia Landauer, like you were talking about, has had speed at a lot of racetracks we've gone to. Riley Herbst has had a lot of speed and just some bad luck coming into the last couple of races for whatever that is. We added another teammate this past weekend, Cole Moore. I think he qualified third. And what a great run he had going all race, and kind of got caught up in a late race incident. You can never count the 7 out of Noah. He usually doesn't practice very well, and he definitely doesn't probably have the qualifying speed he hopes for. But man, on the long runs at the end of the race, you can never count him out. Always has a lot of speed. The 6 car of Cole Rouse. So definitely, the West Series has got a tremendous amount of competition, and any given week, there's 8, 9 guys that can go out there and win a race. And we've just been thankful to be smart and put our heads together and come out with 2 wins apiece between Todd and I, giving Bill McAnally a good statistic to start off the year, that's for sure.
You touched on a couple of your teammates a moment ago. I wanted to ask you, how would you assess their progress thus far? We know Todd's running well. He's contending for the win every week. Julia, though, we're seeing her more in the top 5, top 6 the last, I believe, 3 or 4 races. Riley Herbst, he's running well, finishing the races, only going 1 lap down this past weekend, still learning these new heavy stock cars. How would you assess their progress?
Yeah, so Julia has, I think, exceeded a lot of expectations, and I don't know if that's fair to say or not. Just I didn't really have expectations for her coming on to the West Series just because of her limited oval track experience, but she's been doing a really great job, and her race speed is really, really good. And so for her limited experience, she's putting up, very solid performances. And going into Sonoma here for the next race, with her road course experience, look for a lot of great things from her, I believe, as she's going to definitely open a lot of eyes come Sonoma. Riley, a young gentleman who's got a lot of energy, like I've mentioned before, not very, very nice kid and very dedicated into racing and what he's doing. He's had a lot of speed, and it's too bad that his results don't show it. Like I said, it's been a lot of bad luck on his part, whether it's mechanical or just getting caught up in somebody else's mess for whatever the reason. His late model program, when he's driving out on the East Coast for whoever he's driving out there, it shows that Riley's got the talent, he's got the speed. I think his luck is going to turn around any time now, and look for great and promising things from Riley as well.
Anything on the horizon as far as the rumor mill on any other talent that could be coming through the pipeline in the coming, I guess not weeks, but down the road at the end of this year? Because last year we sat here with Brendan gone. It was one of the weekends Kyle was off, and Brendan said, "Oh, look out for that Riley Herbst. Bill McAnally's really high on this kid." And I had not paid attention to Riley. I knew he ran the trucks at Irwindale Speedway and eventually won that championship. But I guess, and I'm going to go all over the road here, the West just seems like it's a hotbed in a lot of different areas. Your home track, as well as the California tracks in Idaho, for a lot of talent that I don't think we had seen 3 or 4 years ago. And then all of a sudden, boom, the K&N Pro Series West is loaded. I mean, they're just coming out of anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. For whatever reason, I don't think the West geographically, not just the West Series, but West geographically probably doesn't get the notoriety that it deserves. And there's a lot of great talent, whether, like you hit on and mentioned, California, Colorado, and in between. There's a lot of great talent up in Washington that Washington doesn't get a lot of notoriety about. And you'll see some of that when they go up there and run that Summer Showdown super late model race. But as far as young, raw talent coming up through the ranks, I really don't follow too much of that, and I haven't heard much of that. For the most part, I try to keep track on what's going on in my life and my racing schedule and doing everything I can to just keep progressing my resume and my racing career on top of that. But I'm sure they're coming. There's no doubt about it, and definitely count on Bill McAnally knowing about it and being on his radar, because he's definitely in it for the long haul on developing young drivers. And and just super thankful and grateful for everything he's done for myself and providing me with such great fast race cars and getting me hooked up with Napa Auto Parts and Napa Filters to help make it happen.
Yeah, Bill's done a great job these last several years, and as has yourself, winning the title a year ago, looking for 2 this season. Chris, congratulations again on the win in Colorado. Best of luck to you when you guys go road racing in just over a week's time in Sonoma.
All right, thanks, Kyle, and thanks, guys, for having me on again on the show.
All right, that is Chris Eggleston, the big winner for the second time this year. I think it's going to come down to teammates. I know we're waiting for the Grayson Razes and the Noah Gregsons and the Julia Landauers to break through, but when you look at consistency, those two seem like they're 1 and 2 about every week.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't want to predict it, but I think you can throw Ryan Partridge in there and make it a good 3-horse race. But you're going to see the continued development. Landauer's doing very good. Riley Herbst's luck is going to change. I think you're going to hear more about Cole Rouse in the middle of the second part of the season. And you're exactly right. Grayson Raz and Noah Gregson, it's only a matter of time.
Been waiting, and I think it might happen next week at Sonoma Raceway, depending on how many Sprint Cup drivers enter the field down there. Usually there's at least 3 or 4 that run the event, and usually one of them ends up winning the event. Coming up, we're going to talk about the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series Division 1 national title fight. It is underway, and we'll chat with the current point leader. Matt Bowling joins us after the break.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
You'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 Cessna Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
O'Reilly.
Father's Day is June 19th. If you're having a hard time deciding what to get, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts where you'll find gift cards and hundreds of great Father's Day gifts. From tools to flashlights, O'Reilly Auto Parts has exactly what he wants. Get him something he'll use this Father's Day at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcast elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
One final lap in the Daytona 500. Joey Logano has the point. Junior crosses over.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Hey everyone, this is NASCAR modified driver Keith Rocco, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Keith. Of course, Keith running for the national championship this year.
Knows how to do it.
He does, and unfortunately rained out last week at the Waterford Speed Bowl, so did not get the points that he was hoping for. Still 4th in the national standings as they were released just yesterday afternoon. Want to talk to the current point leader. In fact, he's been the point leader the last couple of weeks since the standings started to be released. Again, NASCAR doesn't really start to release them until all of the NASCAR Whelen All-American tracks are up and running, and everybody has a couple of shots to get up on the leaderboard. The driver on top right now, Matt Bowling, championship leader, 14 starts already, 5 wins, including a race win this past weekend in East Carolina. Matt, welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, and congratulations on all the early season success already.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me on. Yeah, it's been a great year, great start to the season. Hopefully we can continue to, keep it up there.
You've been a well-traveled driver already this year, but let's start at the very beginning of the season and even go back to the tail end of last year where you had a wicked battle with Lee Pulliam at South Boston, if I can get that tongue twister out, and also Motor Mile Speedway, some very good battles there. But what I was so impressed about, and Kyle and I, as we alluded to at the top of the hour, are so cognizant of car count, which I'm sure you are if you're running for a national championship. But South Boston has been loaded with late model talent this year. The numbers, pretty much around 25 to 30. It's been incredible.
Yeah, they're having a really good year for car count there, and I'm glad to see it. It's such a good racetrack, and it's nice to have your hometown track, not have to worry about car count, and it really helps out a lot going for the national.
It looked like a pretty healthy field this past weekend at East Carolina as well, a track that Buddy and I talked about earlier, struggled to get a dozen late models, maybe, even into the double digits 2 years ago. Looks like they've come a long way with their fields in just the last year. A good field of cars for double features this past weekend. You were able to claim one of those checkered flags.
Yeah, they had a really good field, really tough competition down there, and that was my second time going there, and we just figured we'd try going down there and get 2 races in, and we was lucky enough to come away with 1 win. So it was really good for national points.
Is there any other racetrack that East Carolina is even comparable to? Because I worked down there back in the mid-'90s as an announcer, and it was one of the most unique racetracks I'd ever seen. Like, it's more of a 3-turn short track, but just so challenging the way it looks. Is there anything that compares to it, or how tough is it to get your car set up for that racetrack?
Yeah, it's very tough. It's kind of wore out, and you search for grip on exit, and it's just a very tight racetrack. It's got a lot of similarities to Ace, I think, in some ways, and in some ways it don't. It's definitely unique. I don't think there is another place like it.
Now, of course, it's never too early to start looking at the national standings. You're the Division I leader. We've learned how important it is to win races early in the season. You want to get out ahead of everybody because that late summer stretch, a lot of drivers have some big shows at the tail end of the season, can get the big points. When do you start looking at the points on a weekly basis? I mean, is this something that you began 2016 to set out to do, is to chase these national points?
No, not really. I mean, we just kind of started out running this big races, running South Boston first 2, and, picked up 2 wins right off the bat, and then we won another one shortly after, and then we kind of really started thinking about, like, hey, we got 3 full car count wins, and then we picked up a 4th, and then we really started thinking about traveling around some and trying to get this thing. So, I might not never get another shot at it to start off that good, so we're going to give it all we got while we're in the lead and see what happens.
And you're doing everything you possibly can. I happen to be at Dominion Raceway on Memorial Day weekend. So good to see you there. It was my first visit to watch late model competition. A very good field of cars there. You've been at Caraway Speedway, but all of this equals one thing, or comes down to one thing, and that is you guys got to have a good plan, but you got to have a pretty deep pocket or a good plan financially to make all of this work. If South Boston's off or if they get rained out, where can you go from there? Kind of take us through the structure that you have for your team that's enabling you guys to have the ability to be able to do this.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, Paul Logan Shipping, he's a big backer of me, and and Hopkins Lumber and Bill Lemons, and just got a few good sponsors, and it allows me to travel around some when I ain't racing in South Boston and be able to make it work out financially. So I figure we give it a good shot and see what happens. But yeah, I think every weekend we get off, we got to go where the cars are at and where the car count is and try to pick up wins. It's probably going to take 10 more wins to even come close to winning it. So we'll just keep digging away at it and see what happens. 5
wins already tucked away toward that national title in your 14 starts so far. What's the next couple of weeks look like for you, and how far out do you plan on where you may or may not race?
Really, it's week to week. We know we're going to go to South Boston. We're leading the points there now, and they got car count. So we know we're going there, each one they got. But as far as between, we kind of just trying to go where twin races are at. But as far as the weekend after this weekend, we ain't really sure. We're still looking at our options, just trying to play it out and see where's the best place to go.
You're very successful at one of the greatest hotbeds of short-track motorsports, South Boston Speedway, that has been home to so many fabled names in the NASCAR Sprint Cup and Xfinity Series ranks. But for those that are not totally familiar with Matt Bowling, whose name comes up quite often on the show over the past few years, take us back through your racing history a little bit and what led you to where you are right now.
Yeah, just started running go-karts at a very young age and ran all over the South and made the jump to, when I was about 15, made the jump to late model at South Boston and kind of just worked my way up the ladder there and started traveling around some and, I've been doing it for 6-7 years now, running late models. So, just been very fortunate to have a pretty good career. Just been very lucky there.
Kyle kind of touched on the fact that, when you talk about the points and you look at, you only have so much control over the drivers that you race against in the South, whether it be a Lee Pulliam back in the day of Tommy Lemons Jr., who at one time was running, some of the guys that run at Kingsport and Lonesome Pine. You can't control what happens with Keith Rocco in the Northeast, and he's going to rack up a lot of victories, or the Trevor Huddlestons out in the West with Christian McGee that are doing so well at Irwindale Speedway. How much of a mindset, or how much does that really get into your mind, or are you able to just put all that out and just focus and get out there and run against the 25 or 30 cars you have to on a given Saturday or Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, it just puts more pressure on you to win because you can't control what they're doing, and that's always in the back of your mind, and you just got to win. I think that just boils down to that. I think you may lose it. You'll never know how much you're going to lose it by or may win it by, so you just got to give it all you got. And the fact that you can't race heads up against them guys and try to control the outcome of a race. It makes it interesting.
Any big races on your schedule for later in the fall? We mentioned a little bit ago that there's a lot of big events coming up. I assume you'll be at the Martinsville Speedway for the annual 300 at the end of the year?
Yes, sir, definitely. That's a big one for us. That's my hometown track. In my hometown here, we're from Ridgeway, so we'd really love to get a win over there. That's a really big goal of mine, so we'll see what happens.
I know that, and kind of going off of what Kyle was saying, he kind of brought one item to mind. In Virginia, you guys have traditionally had 3 big major events. One of those obviously involved Langley Speedway, which unfortunately at the moment is not open. Has there been any word about those events or that particular series? I know that was the Hampton Heat 200, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then South Boston had one of them, and I guess was Martinsville the third?
Yep. It was like a Triple Crown.
Is that Triple Crown still in play, Matt, or has there been any discussion about maybe finding a replacement for the one venue to keep the Triple Crown in place?
I haven't heard anything right now about it. I know that South Boston still got their big July race, July 2nd, I believe it is, July 1st. I would like to see it come back into play there. It was definitely a good deal. It was like a point series between 3 races, and I really liked it. It definitely added some extra incentive there, and I think it got more cars between the 3 races. So I haven't heard anything as of right now, but I hope it comes back into play.
And hopefully we'll be at the Martinsville Speedway at the end of the season
Yes.
for what would be the final race of that Triple Crown. Matt, as always, thanks for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Congratulations on the race win this past weekend at East Carolina and on all 5 of your wins thus far, and best of luck to you in your run for your first national championship this summer.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you all for having me on.
Matt Bowling joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and you look down the tracks that he's run, South Boston, Motor Mile, East Carolina, Caraway, Dominion, far more than anybody else on the list. In fact, most of the drivers have 1, maybe 2 tracks. He has 5.
Well, and other than Keith Rocco, he's the only other driver I think that really has the luxury of that.
Right.
You look at Trevor Huddleston, he's very limited, him and Christian McGee. Chase Purdy, I guess he could do Anderson and Greenville Pickens, but most of them have 2 max, sometimes just 1 that they can choose from. But, he's going whole hog for it, and Rocco's going to be the one that's going to be coming up through those ranks and is really going to put the pressure on him. It's going to be a good battle right down to the wire.
And that's the thing with Matt. He's going to have to sit down and strategically plan where he goes and probably, like you hit on, spend quite a bit of money and man hours to get there, where Keith, he knows Thursday night I'm 30 miles from home at Thompson. Friday night I'm 30 miles or less from home at Stafford. And Saturday night, I'm right in my backyard at the Waterford Speed Bowl. So, there's not a whole lot of planning there. Just jump in the car and do what he's done for the last 15 years. Right now, he's 4th in points. Chase Purdy, 3rd in points. Watched him last night at about midnight.
He had a couple of he didn't win, but he had a couple of top 5 or top 10 runs. He didn't get his 2 more wins over the weekend, but he's tough. He's a very tough young competitor that's going to figure into this battle as well.
Currently 3rd with races at Greenville and Myrtle Beach. And a win last night at about 10 of midnight in the Legends car race at Summer Shootout.
Chase Purdy.
Yeah.
Really? I wonder if we can. Is he
division.
talking Jason Chrisley into trying to get that as being a NASCAR victory? Okay.
We'll see. When we come back, NASCAR Wheelin' Euro winner over the weekend, Alon Day.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
Motor Racing Network has a way for you to reach out and express your thoughts and opinions on NASCAR. It's the MRN Fan Forum Hotline.
Wondering what's the first thing you tend to
I was curious about those new rules from what I heard.
Call in 844-4-ASK-MRN. Got a question or comment for a driver or MRN personality? 844-4-ASK-MRN.
You guys keep it on. Let's see you guys next
It's
weekend.
the Fan Forum Hotline, your connection to the sport of NASCAR.
The grill is hot and the cooler is cold at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA. Join us each weekend as your host and head chef Rob Tanner serves up the hottest hits and country music, and Steve Post drops by with NASCAR news straight from the sport's top garages and shops. We have 2 hours of country music at the speed of sound, getting you ready for NASCAR racing. Rev up your weekend at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA.
This is NASCAR K&N Pro Series East driver Ruben Garcia Jr., and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Ruben. Last year's NASCAR Mexico champion, running for Rev Racing in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East this year and this weekend at the Stafford Motor Speedway up in Connecticut.
He'll be there, but you won't.
I won't. Thank you for reminding me. I'll be with you at the Iowa Speedway. Alon Day will be running the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, or getting ready to run as they get set for their, I guess, chase format. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but picked up the big win over the weekend at Brands Hatch on race number 2, day number 2 of the weekend, his second win of the season, and contending for the championship. Alon joins us now. Alon, congratulations on the win. Saw some of the highlights over the weekend. Didn't look very easy with a wet racetrack.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much. It wasn't that easy, this win, actually, because it was in the rain. It was in the road courses, but yeah, we worked pretty hard for that, and eventually we got the win, you know.
Yeah, a name that has become very synonymous in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series here late last year, actually this year. Of course, many fans know that you're a member of the NASCAR Next Class, which is a huge honor. But when you think of the Elite One, you know, over the years, it's been Anthony Coupin and Andrew Villarino. But it looks like the level of competition, we had Eddie Cheever the third on last year. There are more and more faces that are making their way up front. What is attributed to your early success in the Euro Series in the Elite One category?
First of all, I think, basically, as you know, NASCAR mainly is in the U.S., and when we go to Europe, a lot of people are not that familiar with NASCAR, but yeah, definitely the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series did a great job going into Europe and becoming bigger and bigger. I think more and more drivers in Europe actually realizing and getting familiar with NASCAR. That's the reason why every year you actually can see more and more very good drivers coming in. So the level of the championship becoming really, really high. When I got there last year, for the first time, I came actually from GT cars and GT racing and the single seater. I was like on the path into endurance racing in Le Mans and stuff like this. And when I got first time into NASCAR, I didn't know what to expect, what I should expect in this championship. But very quick I realized I have to learn a lot and I have to do a lot of job until I can get my first win. And yeah, it took me like maybe 10 races until I got my first victory. So, yeah, it's not easy, and it's getting bigger and bigger, as I said, and definitely the level this year is much higher than what I used to race last year, and it's not going to be easy. I try to give the best to win the championship, especially after it's my second year, and I want to be the champion, you know, but it's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
Got your first win of the year back in April at Valencia. Picked up race win number 2 this past weekend at Brands Hatch. every weekend for the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, each time that you guys compete, there are 2 races per weekend. Is race 1, day 1, a little more stressful for you as the driver, knowing that I don't think backup cars are allowed in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for day number 2?
We used to race like this in Europe, and we used to always have a double races in the weekend. That's something which normal. But also because the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series in Europe race a lot in road courses, and when you have a wreck or something in road courses, it's not that big as in oval. So we don't use any backup car or something like that. We just, if you had a crash on Saturday, you just know that the mechanic will hate you until Sunday. That's for sure. But yeah, we used to have a double races. It's something, it's normal in Europe.
Kyle alluded to your victories, one of them at Valencia, Spain, the other one at Brands Hatch over the weekend. Those 2 are road courses, but the series, which runs just 6 times a year with a very good schedule, is a mix of road courses and a couple of ovals mixed in there. Going back to your racing background, are you more comfortable with the road course racing, or is there a part of your oval program that you're excited to try and learn and develop even more?
Yeah, as I said before, I grew up in Europe and single-seater. I was like on the path to Formula One, so I grew up into road courses. I can call myself a road course specialist. And when we look at the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, it's mixed between 2. There is actually 2 ovals, which is 4 races. But I always said I'm more familiar with the road courses. But there is a lot of job personally I have to do to get better and better in oval, that's for sure. And also the team have to do a lot of job to become really good in ovals, because we know that that's our weak point, considering the other guys who race against me. For me, it's not the first time I raced an oval, because back in 2012 I was racing in Indy Lights, actually. So I ran a couple of super speedway like Indianapolis and some good other tracks. So it's not the first time I run an oval. I know how it works. I know everything. But between single seater like in the Indy Lights and the NASCAR, there is a lot of different things. It's not the same. It's completely different. And I know there is a lot of things to learn. And I'm really glad in this point. Actually, I'm in the NASCAR Next, because I have really the best opportunity to grow up and learn the best I can and the quickest I can to become a really good oval driver,
And that NASCAR Next program will put you in the spotlight more here in the U.S. as well, part of a great program that NASCAR started a few years ago. We've seen Andrew Villarino in a couple of events over here in the States. We've seen Anthony Coupin the last couple of years try to run a limited NASCAR Xfinity Series program and still is in and around the NASCAR Whelen Euro schedule. Is that something you're interested in maybe doing down the road?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, after racing in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, I think that the best thing to do is to cross over to the States and start racing there. And, NASCAR, as I said before, it's in the U.S., and if I want to be a NASCAR driver, I have to go to the U.S. And I already started to work on that, started to find deals to race in the States. I think the best opportunity for me, if we think about it, is to actually start in road courses. To make my debut in road courses, actually I can maybe achieve a good result, and it can be a good starting point for me in my career in the States. But we still work on that, and I'm really, as I said before, I'm really glad to be in the NASCAR Next, because they give me the tools and the resources and open me so many doors. So it's much easier for me now to get into contacts with other teams and all those kind of things when I'm in the NASCAR Next, actually.
And while that opportunity, I'm sure, is going to be coming right around the bend, in the meantime, very successful in the program you're in. We've had a chance to talk to Anthony Coupin, Eddie Cheever III, and a few other people within the NASCAR ranks, and mainly drivers of the Whelen Euro Series. And we've talked about just the color, the pageantry, and the embracing of the fans of that program at so many great venues. You're looking at Spain, the Netherlands and Germany, England, France, Italy, Belgium. It looks like the NASCAR version of a Formula One schedule when you go to such fine facilities throughout Europe. Take us through your impressions of the relationships that you've had with fans and your impressions of the fans and how they embrace your sport that you're currently in.
Well, you know, I always said that Europe is kind of boring in motorsport. If you look at Formula One, it's very clean. You know what I mean? You cannot go into the garage as a fan. You cannot be together with drivers. You cannot even talk to the drivers. Whenever you used to race in GT, there is like a special area for the drivers, and you cannot talk to them. And if you want a signature or anything like that, you have to wait in a big line just to get a signature or photo with the driver. And when I looked first time in the NASCAR, when I raced there for the first time, it's so much more open. And I think that's the reason why NASCAR becomes so much big in Europe, because fans are realized that the driver, everything is much more easier to see and to be there when you go on the paddock. So I think that's the good thing in the NASCAR when you, especially in Europe, which is come with a different atmosphere. And I always said it's the American style of racing. They bring it to Europe. So you can see the difference big time when you go into one of the races of the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series, and when you immediately after that go to a different weekend in Europe, you can actually see the difference big time. And I think in few years the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series will become big championship in Europe, which you can see a lot of young drivers from Europe will start to race there. That's for sure.
NASCAR has done a great job with access with all of the divisions, whether it be the touring divisions or the National Series here in the States, and it looks like they're doing the same with the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series. Alon, time is short. One more quick question for you. Back to oval racing. Next week, Tour Speedway in Tour France. It looks like a little fun little racetrack, a short track. How is it from your seat? You did well there last year with 2 top 5 finishes.
Oh yeah, I got my top 5 finish, but that's a very tough oval. It's really short, very demanding, very physical, especially physical. And last year was extremely hot in France, which is unusual. You know, I came from Israel actually. I came from the desert. For me, it should be natural. But yeah, last year was extremely hot and very hard as a driver. And as I said before, there was a lot of job for me personally as a driver, and there's a lot of job for the team in all the car and the setup side. But we work on that really hard, and I really hope we can get a really good result there. Hopefully, I can get my first win in oval. You know, that's the main target right now.
Well, some good short track racing over there in the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series. Watch those races next week. They should be fun. Alon, as always, thanks for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Congratulations on the win this past weekend at Brands Hatch.
Thanks for having me.
Alon Day, one of I think the next new champion. I think in that series. You know, we've had Ander Villarino 2 of the last 3 years. Anthony Kupin has won the championship. I think if one of those two don't win the title this year, and Anders out of it, we know he's not running full-time, if at all. Alon could be that next new champion, I think, that we'll see over there.
Yeah, right now, Kumpen does lead the points by 6 over Frederick Gabillon. Steins Longen, another driver that I think we've talked about. He's been very successful in that Elite 2.
Yep.
So I'm looking for next year to see whether that's a driver that jumps up into the Elite 1 category. But there are some very good drivers, and what's so cool, it kind of reminds me of when we used to do the IMSA racing. We focused on the main cars. All I can think of is GT, but that's little cars. Prototype, because that's all we were familiar with. As we got deeper into the year, we found ourselves talking more about the GTs as we got more comfortable, and that was even more entertaining. And I think we're finding the same thing with the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series. We're getting deeper and deeper and more involved in both the Elite 1 and Elite 2, and it's really some good racing in both groups.
Some great racing, short track racing next week in Tour Speedway. And then the semis begin at Adria International Raceway in September, and then the championship weekend in Zolder in October. Back to wrap things up on this edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast after the break.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
O'Reilly.
Father's Day is June 19th. If you're having a hard time deciding what to get, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts where you'll find gift cards and hundreds of great Father's Day gifts. From tools to flashlights, O'Reilly Auto Parts has exactly what he wants. Get him something he'll use this Father's Day at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
MRN On Demand. Listen or watch when you want and where you want. Find all of MRN's original programs in the Media Center at MRN.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Race Day Nation on iHeartRadio. Find NASCAR Live, Motorsports Monday, Winged Nation, NASCAR Coast to Coast, Pod Tracks, Slingin' Dirt, The Inside Line, and The Straight Line. Motorsports programs when you want, where you want. MRN On Demand. MRN's Winged Nation, presented by Sage Fruit on MAV TV every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. and again at 12:30 p.m. Steve Post and Ashley Strimmy give you a full half hour of sprint car news and interviews with the biggest names from the world of outlaws, ASCS, All-Star Circuit of Champions, Pennsylvania, Knoxville, the West Coast, and all dirt tracks in between. MRN's Winged Nation on MAV TV, presented by Sage Fruit, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern on MAV TV.
This is NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour driver Ryan Preece, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to you, Kyle and Buddy.
And watching some of the video from this past weekend at the Stafford Motor Speedway, Woody Pitkat, Eric Byrne, coming down to the white flag. Want to thank Robert Baggett who posted this finish on YouTube. An incredible race, and this is something that we see just about each and every week at short tracks across the country. This one stands out, though, because...
Don't bother me. I'm watching the video.
Okay. It's a near photo finish, buddy, and here they come down to the checker. Woody Pitkat claiming the win Friday night at Stafford over Eric Byrne, two former champions, and... a great finish this past weekend.
Yeah, and very clean racing from what I just saw for a couple laps. And like I said, it reminded me of Byron and Crafton Friday night at Texas. But those guys got fenders on the cars. These are open-wheel modifieds, and that's some of the cleanest racing for a win I've seen.
And Robert Baggett posts all the races every week from the Stafford Motor Speedway and at a couple of other tracks up in Connecticut and in the Northeast. So be sure to check his YouTube page out.
Hey, you know what also starts tonight in addition to Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park Modifieds? And we can't talk about it a whole lot, but it does involve one of our racetracks, and that's the Hell Tour. It starts at Brownstown Speedway tonight, but they will be at Cedar Lake Speedway for the Masters this weekend. And Cedar Lake, obviously, is one of our NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series short tracks. But 29 races in 32 days in 8 states.
I wish that was my life. Oh, kind of, sort of is.
It kind of feels like it is some days.
Other racing this past weekend, Bowman Gray, they were able to beat Mother Nature. Tim Brown led wire-to-wire to win the rain-delayed NASCAR Hall of Fame 100. They're back in action with twin 50 laps via the modifieds this week.
It was son beating dad at La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway in Wisconsin. Mike Carlson over Steve Carlson over the weekend in Wisconsin with Matt Henderson coming home third. Steve Holt took the late models at 11 and I-44.
Jacob Gilley and John Reynolds Jr. split the twin late model features at Rockford Speedway in Illinois. They are back in action this Saturday and includes one of your favorite nights, or one of your favorite events, the trailer race.
Yes, indeed. Hey, we mentioned Lee Pulliam earlier. He'll be a driver contending for the championship once again. He picked up one of the twin wins along with Chad Fincham at Motor Mile Speedway in Radford, Virginia. Ronnie McCarty took the late models at the Kingsport Speedway in Tennessee.
New Smyrna Speedway ran this past Saturday night. Brad May won in the super late models. Patrick Thomas winning again in the sportsman division. Their next event this Saturday night featuring the pro late models.
And I'm not going to deny you this because you've been waiting for the result. Who won at Utica Rome finally? Do you remember?
Well, which night? They ran twice.
But the fact is they ran.
Yes.
They got to run. How many weeks was it?
6 in a row.
Yeah.
Rob Belanger picked up the modified win on night number 1. On Sunday, it was Matt Shepard. So they ran twice last week. Thursday night and Sunday night, they both got in rain-free.
Awesome deal. Chemung Speedrome went to Zach Curran over the weekend. Timmy Solomito taking the twin wins at Riverhead.
Want to thank Chris Eggleston, Matt Bowling, and Alon Day for joining us. For Robbie Mays on the graphics, our producer Craig Moore. He's Buddy Long. I'm Kyle Rickey. We'll see you back here next Wednesday on NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com.
This has been NASCAR Coast to Coast with MRN short track experts Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long. Tune in next Wednesday at noon at MRN.com for more talk from NASCAR home tracks and touring series. NASCAR Coast to Coast is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.